All right, Nanny. Well, we're here for interview number 2 here, and this one, as we talked about last week, is about your time on the base and your job out there here at Robins Air Force Base. So, my first question to you is, how did you get your job on Robins Air Force Base?
Well, I actually was on there 2 times. The first time was when I was going to a business college in Macon, and they actually had a need for somebody, and they informed my college that they needed somebody. Well, they put my name in, and I was probably about through with that anyhow. So I got my first job out there then.
Do you remember what year that was?
I hadn't thought about it. I was about 18 or 19 years old. Probably
Okay.
19.
So
And
early 40s?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it would be. And my job was a typist.
Hmm.
That's what I had taken in. Well, actually, I took that in high school and also in business college there. So that was my first job, and they called that a typist pool on the base where there was numerous typists,
Right.
and people in the offices would bring stuff out and put it in a basket, and we would go pick out something and type it for them.
Oh.
So whether it was a letter or anything that they needed. So that was my first job right
And that was like an intern kind of
there.
job?
Yeah, I guess so. Uh, I didn't stay in that very long. I was actually, um, we had a job offer for some people to work in another place, and I was selected for that. But uh, it wasn't long before I actually got another job. Uh, they're trying to provide materials for aircraft,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed that very much.
Okay. And so that was your first time on base?
That was,
Your
uh,
first tenure on the base?
no, actually, I had, it wasn't Air Force when I went on there.
Right, because
It
they
was
hadn't.
U.S. Engineers,
Right.
and they were still building buildings out there, a
Right.
lot of them.
Yeah.
And I worked in payroll office there, and all I did was write discharge checks
Hmm.
for people that had worked and the job gave out, and I wrote the discharge checks to them.
And it wasn't
And
called Robbins then, was it?
no, it actually
Was it Wellston?
it was a Wellston.
Okay.
And that's what this town was. Name was Wellston.
Wellston, right.
So anyhow, I got a promotion there and went into the architectural office, and where they had plans and things about buildings on the base. And
Hmm.
we had to uh, actually send a report every Friday afternoon up to Washington, D.C. of how the base was progressing.
How did you send that?
There was always a plane waiting for the report,
Wow.
and they flew it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty amazing.
yeah.
So when abouts did your first go around on the base end?
When I got married,
Okay.
and we didn't have a bridge across the old buggy
Mm-hmm.
at that time from where I lived to the base.
Out in Tweeds County.
You had to actually go to Macon and come back,
Right.
and that was pretty tedious. So
Yeah.
actually, I just didn't go back to work right then on the base.
Mm-hmm.
It was only later that I did that.
Gotcha. And so when was that, and what were the circumstances, how you got back on base?
Well, they did build a bridge
Mm-hmm.
there, and actually, my husband, he decided he wanted to work on the base, and farming just didn't make it
Mm-hmm.
at that time. It was
Right.
pretty rough. So when he went to work, I decided I'd go back to work over there. But it was entirely different, and I did record keeping, you might say. It was called something else. I can't even remember what it was called, but
Mm-hmm.
I started back doing that kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, so what were the different programs and offices that you worked in then as well?
Well, I hadn't been working in that area very long before they started a program that was very secretive, and I got to go in that, and several of my friends out there on the base got in that too,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to work out of a warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and no one was allowed in there unless they had been told they could, and
Mm-hmm. Are you able to say what that program was?
Well, it involved a B-47, and they had 5 of those planes that they put all this secret material in there, and this was the first time I ever knew that a plane could fly over something and could detect what was in a building
Mm-hmm.
on the ground below the plane.
Right.
And
Do you remember what year that was, that program?
Probably my 2 children had been born before I went back to work out there.
Right.
So it was probably around 53 or 4, 1953 or 4.
Okay. Because I know a lot of people who work out there now might recognize some of the building numbers. Do you remember the buildings that you worked in out there, the numbers?
Well, we worked in a warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very secretive. No one was allowed in there except us workers,
Right.
and I don't remember the year or how many years I worked out there, but I worked several years in that secretive operation. operation on those B-47s, yeah.
Didn't you say at one point you worked in building 220 for something?
I did work before I went on this job, and I, there was a lot of planning and reports and so forth, and I worked for military there, and it was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because I didn't have a desk in that building, but I did do some work in that building. So I thought that was cool that you were also there.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of kind of secretive programs, can you tell us about your time working with the U2 program?
I worked with the B-57 before the U2.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
U2 came after my program.
Right. Gotcha. So are you able to tell any details about that or your experience with that stuff?
Well, it wasn't very odd for the general to come down there and stand by us and watch us work and do things like that. But we just wasn't allowed to talk about that anywhere. And I think it was a long time before I even heard about it on TV.
I always think it's very cool when I see something about the U2 or whatever on the news because I just think about
We preceded that.
exactly your work kind of helped contribute to that, which is very fascinating. And you may have already shared this, but when you were in that warehouse, what specifically did you do? Was it like paperwork or like plans or what was it?
I did paperwork. We had to order material, and the material was stored where I worked. We were all together.
Gotcha.
Material in the offices. We were all together in a warehouse.
Are there any other programs that you worked with that were classified at the time, but you're able to talk about now?
No, that was the main thing that I did, is a classified program, and it was very interesting. And actually, a Navy captain was over our office, and it was very unusual, but we did have Navy people, Army people, all like that.
What was that dynamic like, talking like from an Air Force perspective to other branches like Navy and Army?
It was normal, yeah.
No arguments or contentions?
No, we joked a little about it.
Oh yeah, of course you got to do that. Right? Let's see. So I know there was, a few questions that I was thinking about here dealing with, back in the 40s they had the Roswell incident and things like UFOs and things like that. Did you ever hear anything about that or things like that when you were out there?
Not much.
No, not really. All right. And then I know you told this kind of funny story once, but can you tell the story about the time in your office over the Christmas holidays?
Well,
and do you remember about what year it was?
Most people wanted to take off during Christmas, but my kids were kind of growing up and getting to their teens and everything, so I thought, well, I'll just volunteer and stay out here during Christmas, work the various desks, and we had to be able to answer phones in the other offices and all like that. But I never ran so much in all my life, and I said I would never do that again because it was tedious going from office to office and trying to fill orders that I knew nothing about, you know, and the Army and Air Force both were constantly calling in there wanting something. And so many times I just had to make a note of it and wait for the person that worked that particular job to come in and fill that order. So.
Right. Well, and then what year did you retire officially from the base?
I made an agreement with myself that I would retire when I was 60 years old, and that's what I did. I worked about a month and 6 weeks after I was 60 because I wanted to work till the end of the year, and that's what I did.
Gotcha. So that would have been the end of 1983, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did they have a big send-off for you, retirement party or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. In the office they did. They had special food and gave me gifts and gave me that clock on the wall up there.
So that's where that came from. I never knew.
Uh-huh. That's where it came from. And I miss my people because they were really good to work with. And I've heard a lot of folks say they didn't like the people they worked with, but that wasn't me. I really liked. I had a lot of friends out there, you know, but I never went back.
It's always nice to get along with your coworkers, for sure.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, that's all the questions I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or anything that sticks out?
Well, I'm got promoted constantly, and I went up to a GS-11, and I was being interviewed for a GS-12 when I left there. So I finally just told them I wasn't interested. I was fixing to leave and be with my kids.
Right. All right. Well, anything else?
Well, I'm sure there was.
Well, that's some good stuff right there. I really appreciate you talking with us.
Okay.
And I think next time you want to talk about World War II and that kind of time period? Or is there something else you want to talk about?
That's fine.
Okay. All right.